someone came to the door one day, knocking real hard. They were, I don't know how else to describe it, but they were very fleshy looking, and it terrified me. I saw these balls of light that were stars, again, moving, and this time they were growing in intensity. I could see that they were silver. They would do this kind of blink pattern, and then just completely stop, and stop moving, and then just pretend they're a star for the rest of the night.
Hello and welcome to a new episode of The Drip System, the first interview that we ever had on here. A special guest, a lifelong experiencer named Bryan. Bryan, welcome to the show and thank you very much for doing this. I'm excited, a bit nervous because I've never done this before, And why don't you just introduce yourself to the people and then we'll get started with the juicy bits.
Danke. I just want to say, as far as the juicy bits go, started out when I'm just an average person. Let me first say that. I'm not anybody special. I'm not, I don't hold myself to a higher ranking than any other human being. But first encounter I had was when I was 7 years old. I was on my bicycle. Still had training wheels on it, went down to the corner of the street that I was living on at the time, and I saw something that was way too big to be believed. At the age of 7, that was terrifying, absolutely terrifying. So I'll kind of touch on that, and then from there, I had, my mother had claimed that when we were going up to upstate, probably 2 years, 3 years after that, there was something that was massive above us. We were all asleep, all as kids, so we didn't know. But it sounds like a very interesting thing. Sounds like something that came out of Star Trek, actually. That looks like something like what the Borg would have.
Oh, damn. Okay.
Yeah, it's bizarre. And then from there, the next encounter, I believe, unless I'm missing something, was when I was in my car going to work. And I was driving along my normal route. And sunny day in December. And then here I am looking forward at the sun, at a stop sign. And I noticed there were 2 suns in the sky, not one. And I thought, that's not normal. and so then I'm like, wait, why is that star brighter than our sun? And it just continued to grow in intensity and size. And you could even make out with your bare eyes, without wearing sunglasses, like points of light coming off of it, like at a T. And I guess that'd be more like a diamond shape. But there were some really weird things that occurred there. And then another time, driving from work, going home, late in the evening, November night, full overcast, as in all the clouds were very much collected. There was no breaks of light, no separation between the clouds whatsoever. It's a straight highway, so it has a few bends in it, but it's not much. So plenty of time to see the night sky as you're driving, right? And I'm noticing these, what looks like spotlights, and I can see 2 spotlights way out in the distance, way out there. And then there was one that was a little bit closer to me. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, okay, no big deal, but it is kind of strange for being not strange for being a Friday night. Because normally the strip clubs will turn on their spotlights here in this area. We're near a very popular river, and it's pretty routine. However, the difference was this spotlight was in a position so that you could not connect the light on the cloud, which was it was not on the cloud as normal spotlights are, but was within the cloud, glowing from within the cloud.
Okay.
And you would think that there'd be a spotlight station, the actual light you could see to put it to, because it was so close. There was nothing. That was a very bizarre encounter. There's more to it. And then you have actual one that I have not let you know about that I just occurred to me after I got out of bed earlier today, ironically, where I was at work, 2021, 2022, no, 2020, 2021, and driving the security truck, and normal sunny summer day, beautiful day, and I see, was 100% sure at the time, a Mylar balloon. I saw it on the camera system and I saw it in the truck. And I'm like, how in the world is this Mylar balloon still over the parking lot and not flown away? Because the wind was pretty gusty. It should have picked up and took off. But this thing had no seams on it whatsoever. And I looked for like a little clip on it from like what a balloon would have, like a Mylar balloon. There was nothing. It rotated fully. Never saw anything. Drove right under it. It was probably, if you were standing on top of the truck and you're about 5'10", my height, you could touch it. That's how close it was. And then, not only that, but how does a Mylar balloon stop dead in the air and not move?
So did it have the size of a Mylar balloon as well?
Pretty much.
Okay.
It was more of an orb than it was oval.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then what else do I have? I've not touched on. I'm forgetting now.
You described an archaeologist.
Most recently.
Yeah.
Most recently, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
That's okay.
So one of them that occurred more recently, when I had to come back here to my parents' place due to this terrible event in my life that's ongoing, totally unrelated. I was thinking it was October, so just this last October. I was thinking, man, it'd be so cool to see something, because I see shooting stars here. For whatever reason, they have a great shooting star viewing area. And I'm like, okay, that'd be cool to see something. And then just like that, a star that was stationary moved.
Someone listened in. Yeah.
No way. I'm like, I'm just imagining it. And I walked back in. But as I got to the door, I looked back and it was still moving. I'm like, what the heck? So then that spurred a whole series of events that lasted probably the whole entire month of October.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And they still been seeing these orb wannabe stars, fake stars, as most recently as this past July 4th.
And do they always react to your thoughts or verbal issues? No? Okay.
No.
Because I was thinking of Chris Bledsoe, I think it was, right? Where the orbs come when he wants them to come, basically. If you're familiar with that.
I'm familiar with Chris Bledsoe.
Okay.
I'm not familiar with that story, but I take you for your word.
As far as I know, at least, I actually am not sure if Chris was the son or the father. I think the father, though. Probably. I'm so sorry out there if we butchered this. But I believe even 3-letter agencies came in contact with him because of this consistent ability to conjure up orbs in the sky.
Is basically, he the guy that made contact with CIA or something like that? And they went to a ball and a party and had pictures taken with him while they're dancing with him and all that stuff?
I think something like that might have happened, yes.
Did he meet somebody? Did he meet somebody in a barn?
Maybe. I'm not super familiar with his story. I bought his book as an audiobook, but I yet have to listen to it. The UFO of God, I think, or something along those lines.
If that's the same guy, he said he met some woman that he consistently met. Well, I've not had anything like that. But yeah, I can go into more details about all these other
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean,
strange things.
why don't we start with the early experiences and then work our way up again? Maybe just to give a bit more detail, and you can, of course, even if I don't ask about it, if you think of something, just interject or add to it, basically, if that sounds okay.
Sounds good.
Okay. So can you maybe describe the first encounter in a bit more detail in 1990 that you had? How did you feel, and how did it impact you at the time? I mean, if you don't want to go into more detail about that specific event, that's completely okay, because I know that was quite traumatizing as a child. Anyone would have been traumatized by something like that. So up to you, but if you want.
Sure. So, again, the first thing that happened was, I'd say around early 90s when I was 7, on the bicycle with training wheels, riding down. And I think I sent you the image there of the street corner.
Mm-hmm.
And get to the street corner. It has this very strange, it's like a strange angle where the streets connect. And I'm standing there, and the next thing I notice up to my left is what looked like, if you could picture the ends of 2 blimps. So something like this stacked on top of each other. And it was reflective. It was metal-like. I would describe the color as being like a silver gray with some reflective properties to it.
How big was it?
Oh, massive. I mean, it didn't take up the whole sky, but it took up from where I could see the end of it, what end I could see anyway, all the way back to maybe 4 or 5 houses.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So, and it was not so much the width of it that was intimidating. It was the height. And I don't know exactly what occurred there. I do have a blank spot in my head. But what I can tell you happened after that was that I got terrified. I felt like I was stone, as in I just could not. I was so scared I just couldn't get myself to move. And then the next thing I remember is being in the bedroom and wondering how I got there. And then my parents had asked me right after that where my bike was, why it was down at the end of the street. And I said I didn't know. And that was that.
Did your parents believe you, or did they just think you lost your bike or something?
Never brought up what I saw to this day. And I mean, maybe,
wow.
They overhear me one day or something, but I've never brought it up to them. Too scary because of what followed after that. That scenario was perfectly fine because, again, I don't remember what occurred immediately after viewing that. But I will say this: I will always be more scared of people than I will anything else in the world because of this encounter. I was being babysit. Myself and my sister were being babysat by the neighborhood friend, and someone came to the door one day, knocking real hard. The babysitter opened the door, and she kind of opened it just a little bit so she could see and not really let the kids be seen, asking them what they wanted. And they were dressed with trench coats, because this is early 90s and all things were okay back then with trench coats, and down to just above the shoes. And these guys were, I would say, white males, but they weren't your typical white. They were kind of ghostly white, and they were, I don't know how else to describe it, but they were very fleshy looking, and it terrified me. The babysitter said, "Go hide, kids." So that scared me even more. It didn't help. And so I was hiding real close to the front door because I wanted to know what was going on. And The first guy says, well, ma'am, we're here because of an occurrence that happened in this neighborhood, and we want to interview some particular person. And she says, who? You're not going to interview anybody. And the first of the three guys said, well, we're here to interview a kid, a little boy. And that's I started getting really scared.
Of course. Take it slow. It's okay.
So it's just more of that kind of verbiage. And they tried to assure her that they were not there to, hurt anybody, but that they needed to talk to the boy. And that's really about all I can recall from that.
It's okay. It must have been terrifying.
Yes, absolutely. From them more than it was from the scene I had. And I put the two together, and I fought so hard in my head to forget about this scenario because I didn't want to have to relive it. And this is actually one of the first times that I've disclosed this to anybody.
Thank you for that. I can really hear how hard that was for you as well. So thank you. I think it will help a lot of people that maybe have made a similar experience, because you hear of these, I mean, I will call them what they probably were in your mind as well, these men in black, right? How they are either, I mean, also this weird look that they had that you described is often being reported, if I remember correctly, how some people believe that they are some kind of hybrid or maybe even organic robots or something like that, or just masked people.
They were fake, and they were very educated, and they, as scary as they were, excuse me.
That's okay.
As scary as they were, they seemed, I don't know, strangely enough, it felt like family.
Okay.
That's all I can say. I don't know. Nothing else comes to mind as to how I felt around them.
It's very interesting that you say that. Family, okay. Not the first word that would usually come to mind, right? When someone had like a traumatizing experience like that.
Exactly.
Do you think they projected, maybe they had the ability to project that feeling into people to make them feel safe or something?
I don't know who they are or what. I won't speculate as to, because I'm more interested in the facts and the truth. And
makes sense.
To touch on that question though, my opinion would be that they are people, but they're doing something else there's something else extra going on there. I don't know what it is.
I mean, the only thing I can do is speculate as well, because obviously I've never had any significant experience. I think the most I ever saw was 3 lights in the triangle shape, but only the lights looked like stars at first in the sky floating above. And that was strange because I've never seen satellites in that kind of formation at all. So that was, I think, a couple of years back. That's the only thing I ever saw where I was sure that was weird. So I can't imagine what that must have been like. And so again, I can only speculate. I sometimes speculate a little bit too much. I love just thinking about this kind of topic and what could be, basically. So forgive me if I sometimes come out with some strange comment or idea. That's just me. I'm interested in facts as well, though.
Be careful with the rabbit hole; it'll pull you in.
Yes, exactly. I'm going deep down the rabbit hole all day, most of days.
I hear
most
you.
of the days. All right. So I think let's continue. Do you have any more about that time as a kid? Like, what happened after that? I mean, you obviously didn't tell anyone after that happened. I don't think.
No,
You said
kept it to myself.
Yes.
No way.
No.
Although between then and the other encounter was between then and when I was more of an adult. Another encounter was witnessed by my mother, so I can't speak to that other than, it's just interesting that they would say that they had witnessed something while we were on the highway. Us kids were sleeping, and it was still early enough in the morning where it was night sky. And the only thing I remember from that is I was starting to fall asleep. I looked up outside the van's windows, and I could see road flares, and the police were, police or whoever they were, directing people to go in one lane. And then I was lights out, and we find out months or years later that my mother saw something while my father was driving, and my father claims he didn't see it. But I don't know how you can miss something that's almost blotted out the sky.
Yeah, I mean, some people might intentionally forget or suppress stuff, right? If they think it can't be real, can't be possible. So
yeah, I agree.
Maybe that
Definitely.
was that. The babysitter, did you ever talk to her again, or do you know if you told people about it?
So I did. We were friends for quite a few years after that encounter, and it never came up again. She told me not to bring it up. And then it wasn't until, I'd say maybe 2011, 2012, somewhere around there, I contacted her again on Facebook and asked her, about it. And she says, yeah, I remember people come to the door, but she didn't want to talk about it.
Okay.
So she knows more than I do about the dialogue, and I wish I could have got her. I tried so hard, but she just will not talk about it.
Some people need their own pace, I guess, to come to terms with these things. Especially now, I think that all the UAP things and sightings and witness reports are in the news. More and more people actually might find the courage to come forward. Maybe one day she will as well. Maybe she sees this one day.
Maybe. And so, something that just came across my memory, discussing this just now, was that there were 3 more encounters after that from those same men.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I will say that the one time one guy ducked out and another guy took his place, but it was still the same 2 guys with the group of 3. And they were pressing to find out. And the last time it happened, the police were called, and police arrived and there was nobody there. But don't know how they got away so fast, or we suspect, they parked at the end of the street so we couldn't see their vehicle. But yeah, that's it for me.
Did they come to your place after, or? Oh,
yeah,
wow.
It was like the day. It was like the day after, something like that.
Was the babysitter there, or were your parents opening the door?
Yep, babysitter was there. For 2 of those 3 encounters, babysitter was there, and then one of them was a family member.
Did you ever talk to your family member about it?
No,
they
don't know. They don't. Okay. They didn't know the details.
And they didn't think they looked strange, or they were strange, or?
No, nothing at all. I'd never. Just people came to the door and I told them to leave.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, that would have been so scary as a kid. I can't even imagine. Like, I was
7 years old.
Yeah, damn. Wow.
Scary.
I just have to have one of my crazy comments, because you mentioned how no one saw them leave and they were just gone, basically. That's what I believe you hear that quite often about the Man in Black as well, that some people believe they might have teleportation or localization technology, I think you call it as well. I'm not sure. I mean, yeah, can't prove that, but just something I thought of just now. All right. The subsequent sightings, I have a question about the flying orbs you saw near Disney World in 1997. I don't think we touched on that, or did we?
No. So that was during one of the shuttle launches. It was actually taking place that day, and it did successfully take off. We were going down the highway in Orlando, Florida, and I looked off to my right, and I saw it looked like a light show. And then I realized that the space shuttle was in the background, and you could see the rockets firing up. And just red balls of light, silver balls of light, different colors dancing over on the sky. And I thought, am I seeing this, or is this just nuts? And I asked my family members, and everybody's like, oh, I never see it. It's probably just laser light show. Maybe it was. But who throws a laser light show while the space shuttle is trying to take off?
Yeah, exactly. You can't even fly a drone near an airport. I don't think they let you shine powerful lasers in the sky during a shuttle launch.
And this was also late 90s.
Yeah.
So
got to keep that in mind for sure,
yeah,
with technology.
drones were almost there. But
do you remember what shuttle that was in 1997? It was, I think.
Not a clue. Took off from Cape Canaveral.
Cape Canaveral. Well, maybe people find out and comment. That would be interesting for sure. Maybe someone saw a similar thing. That's why I'm asking. That could be cool. More reports, basically, to corroborate everything. The second Sun event in 2007. What was your immediate reaction when the fighter jets appeared? Did you hear any official explanation after that?
Sure, I can go into that in a little more detail, actually. So I'm driving there. I'm on a regular route to work. Actually, I take that back. This was a special route, a scenic route. And it was just in all neighborhoods, but prettier. Stopped at the stop sign. That's when I noticed that there was a second sun, different color, much brighter. Can I hold the image up to the screen and then you maybe touch on it later?
For sure.
So
wait, I'll make you bigger. There we go.
So this was back. My handwriting is very childish because
mine is too. That's okay.
Hadn't quite come out of childhood yet at that age anyway. But I had the date and the time and everything what happened. So you can see the sun is the big thing on the top right there. And then on the bottom there is the second sun. It started growing in light as intensity as I was sitting there at the stop sign. And then I said, if I'm seeing what I think I'm seeing, I should pinch myself. And so I pinched myself, and it was still there. And I thought, no way. And then I thought, you know what? Maybe there should be some fighter jets responding to this. And immediately upon that thought, 2 fighter jets went over my vehicle, up high, of course, and broke off in different directions and seemed to scramble. I'm not sure what I have here in this image. I think I'm just trying to...
The trees, I think, and the sun.
Yeah, I think I'm just trying to depict what the light looked like.
What color was the light? If you said it looked different from, like, color-wise from the normal sun.
Like the sun, but with a tint of silver.
Okay, wow, okay.
And then finally, my childish artwork there to show the way the fighter jet scrambled. I have 4 pictured there. I think it was the 2 that took off, and then they met up with the other 2, and they did circle the area. And funny thing was, I'm watching this thing, and it grows into intensity, and then suddenly it goes down, and then it just blended in with the natural light. That's how it disappeared. It was the weirdest thing ever.
Wow.
And went to work, and then I followed up. I had asked my coworkers. I was a kid working at high school at the time, and at high school working, and we were all kind of wondering the same thing. Like, was this something that I just imagined? Somehow I have this, imaginative mind, or was this real? Followed up with the Air Force. I did call the local air base. There was one nearby, and they said they were kind enough, I guess because I was a high school student, to say we did not scramble anything. This was done actually over the phone, which is shocking. But they were kind enough to say, yeah, we didn't scramble anything. We didn't have anything in the air at the time that matches what you're talking about. So,
did they notice the scrambling of fighter jets at all?
No one did.
Okay.
And even the air base, like I said, they said they didn't have anything.
Well,
going
they
on
said
at the
that,
time.
right?
Exactly.
They said that, right? Yeah.
But here's the other thing too. Now I will speculate on this one because this does feel like there was some mental influence. Like, the thing, as I looked at this thing, it grew in intensity. And then when I decided to ignore it, collapse or dissipate. It was more of a dissipation than it was a collapse. But the size collapsed and came to a point where you could see something, and then it dissipated. Again, dissipating into the natural light from the sun that day. But my speculation is that there was some kind of connection there. There was something going on there, because how in the world can you imagine 2 fighter jets going right over you and immediately it happens?
Yeah, that's crazy.
No, I called BS on that one.
Sorry, I didn't mean crazy as in you're crazy. It's just insane.
No, I get it.
The event.
It is insane. It's weird. Yeah. It's mundane and bizarre.
I mean, you hear that relatively often from eyewitness reports, right? Or experiencer reports, I should say, probably. That there might be something like a consciousness connection or a mental connection to these things. Maybe then they have the ability to connect to people's consciousness and read their thoughts or react to their thinking. I don't know. Do you think that the fighter jets were also just in your mind? Maybe is that a possibility you're considering?
Well, again, I pinched myself, and I was going to work, so I was in my vehicle. It wasn't like I was sleeping. It was during the daytime. This is early afternoon.
I mean, it's more logical that they were there for sure. Just maybe if the whatever you saw had the ability to maybe project something in your mind in addition to what you saw.
If it was just my imagination, then I would be, I'd be really full of myself. And I don't want to do that.
No, it's okay. I believe you. I think it's more logical that there was something then that the airbase just didn't want to tell a kid that called them. Maybe. Because I mean, wait. So the object in the sky, did the jet seem to fly towards it at all, or like behind it, or around it, or were they just in the vicinity?
So they went straight over the head, broke off in this direction. And then they eventually met up with the two that scrambled from would be the west, and they circled the wide perimeter of what I was viewing, the sun and the second sun. So they didn't get close to the second sun; they just kept their distance.
Interesting, like as if they had to stand down, or maybe just observe command or something like that.
Yeah, observe, definitely.
Interesting. I mean, what can you do if there's a second sun in the sky other than observe, right? That's I wouldn't know what to do. I would definitely try to film it, but back then they didn't have the greatest anything, right? Greatest cameras.
It was crazy.
Was it 2007, right? What was the camera technology there? Not especially great.
We're doing pretty good.
Yeah.
I don't remember. You'd have to go back to the earlier generation cameras, I would believe, that had at that time, because you know how we progressed in the early 2000s.
Yeah,
everything got grainy, but it was supposed to be great, and eventually, boom, here we are. But
back then I would probably have still used a camcorder or something like that. Not sure. Or maybe when did the better cameras on phones were released? Do you remember at all?
Seems like it was around that year. Maybe,
yeah. But I mean, it was still not super common, right? Maybe?
I'm not sure.
It doesn't really matter. But yeah, anything else about that event, that particular event? Any follow-up? Anything you ever heard from other people as well?
No, never.
Okay, wow. You would imagine that someone saw this, right? Maybe, hopefully, people out there can tell us more about that as well.
And the crazy thing was, I had 2 coworkers that I was close with at the time, and they both lived right on that street where I was at the stop sign, and it was so close to the work site too, and they'd just come from their home, and we got clocked in about the same time, and they said the same thing, or they didn't say the same thing. They said, hey, we didn't see it at all. We don't even know what you're talking about. We never even saw any fighter craft in the sky. So
I mean, there were also descriptions of experiences that went with other people and where they were the only ones seeing something. So there is this suggestion that only those who are meant to see something will see something, that there's an intentionality behind it sometimes. Who knows, right? If you have the technology to maybe travel interdimensionally, I don't know, time travel, whatever they can do, then you probably have an ability like that as well. It's not too far-fetched. Interesting, for sure.
Great.
Your 2015 experience near the archaeological site, that definitely sounded intriguing. Can you elaborate the communication you felt with a saucer-shaped light, maybe?
So yeah,
Or describe the event and then.
sure, you're right. You had it right. So that was again another going from work to home, and again that highway is very straight for the most part. It rests between a very large lake that has a very strange shape to it, a U shape. And then on the other side of the highway, across the street from it, is the Indian site. Very well known place here in the Midwest. And so here I am driving straight. Again, very overcast cloudy sky. There's not a break in the clouds whatsoever. And seeing all these spotlights, and then I see the one that's closest to me, and it just doesn't make sense because I don't see a stationary spotlight shooting up. And you would think, given how close it was, you would see something. And it goes around, and when I start realizing what I'm seeing, that it's not on the clouds, but it's in the cloud, and it's got a slight hue pink glow to it, almost like between a hot pink and a hot orange color. And it's going around and around and around, and then it, boom, stops, just like that on a dime. And then I'm thinking to myself, what did I just see? And I'm watching more. I'm still driving. Thank goodness it's a straight road. And it does it again. I said, except this time it goes in opposite direction. So I'm guessing it was counterclockwise the first time and clockwise the next time. And then it stops on a dime. I'm like, that's no spotlight. No way. And then I said to myself, if you can hear me in my head, if you can hear me, do something. And so they did. They went zigzag, zigzag, zigzag. And then they stopped, and then they made a circle, and then they went around and did another circle. And I laughed. I thought it was hilarious because this is comical. Number one, it seems the idea that someone can hear you by your thoughts is hilarious. It's insane, you know?
I think it's pretty cool.
I think it is too, but here in this moment, I'm like, this is intense.
Yeah.
This is so bizarre.
Yeah.
And then I said in my head, haha, that's very funny. I was actually laughing out loud. And I said, is there anything else you can do? And the only thing I can really tell you, because I do get emotional about this when I revisit it, I wasn't sure whether I was going to give you more detail on this or not, because my credibility is on the line and I don't want to jeopardize that. However,
of course,
I could feel, so just as I'm pointing to now, relative to me and where this craft was, it was definitely the iconic saucer shape. Couldn't make any details because, again, it was in the clouds, and all I could see was just this saucer-shaped, hot pink-looking glow. And it's over here. I can feel like, what would you describe? I guess like wind, like very gentle wind, as if you were to very gently blow on your skin.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And it come to my right side of my head. And it's almost like a tickle, just enough to know it was there. And it was saying things to me, don't know what, but all I could feel was I had one emotion that came to me, love, and that was it. I've never felt something like that before in my entire life. I felt very loved at that moment. And I know it's very bizarre, but I'm telling the honest to God truth.
I believe you. I completely
would put
believe
my
you.
hand on a stack of Bibles and swear on it. And then I said, "Is there anything else, you can do?" And I guess they kind of had this attitude, "Well, watch this. Look how big and bad I am." And it just, boom, zipped. Okay,
Wow.
so if this is them,
Yeah.
it's as if somebody took their hand and just
Ripped it away.
It wasn't like what we do, we humans. It wasn't like driving. We weren't driving anything. We weren't using an engine to propel a craft. It was just being pulled, and it went so fast. Had I blinked, I definitely would have missed it. And at that moment, chill went over my spine. Like, boy, it gave me goosebumps.
I'm getting chills listening to you.
It was crazy. And I said, "No way." I kept saying "no way" as I was getting to the intersection where I turn off from the highway and just about get home. And I was like, I cannot believe I just saw that. That was the wildest thing I've ever seen. And just see that movement. Like I told you in the email, Albert Einstein, said, "Spooky action at a distance." Boy, was that spooky action. It was so bizarre. It's otherworldly.
Many, or not many, I shouldn't say, but there are instances where experiencer reports, or especially people who are very close, I believe, to entities. I'm not 100% sure if you remember this incident where children at a school, I think, was it in, I will butcher
Zimbabwe?
this, in South. Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Saw the gray entities, and they landed. And I think some of them described similar feelings, if I remember correctly, or am I off?
I don't recall, but it does seem like they had. And, I never related that to my experience. I'm living my life. I've always had this. I never put myself in anybody else's box. It's always staying in my own. And I've never thought to connect what other people's experiences to mine, just simply for the sake of being credible and still remembering the facts as they were.
Yeah. I think I might have gotten that wrong, because I think they described having images of a terrible future projected into their minds, right? And so the opposite, basically. But I also heard, I just don't know where and who it was, that people have felt this deep love as well, from experiences, at least. So they must have some ability to project emotion mentally, telepathically. That's very fascinating. Very
strange. So
very
strange.
Yes. But I mean, what is the best thing you can do if you want to let someone know that you don't want to harm them or anything? You project love into them, right?
If you don't have any other way, I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. If you don't want to reveal yourself more than that, right? Then at least show them emotionally.
Yeah, absolutely.
Damn. Wow. Again, I said this to you at the beginning when we weren't recording yet, but I think many people would be very jealous. I know, at least in the UFO community on X, formerly known as Twitter, to have these things happen to them. But
I was one of those people until I realized I was one of those people. I'm like, man, I want to have experiences and all that. And then I started recollecting all the things I had, even though they felt like these nothing moments. Going back over them again, I realized that they're not nothing. It is something. And
it is definitely something.
And that would lead me up to the next few encounters we'll go over. But yeah.
No, I think it's also from what I heard, at least, quite common that if someone gets visited as a child and they have contact with that individual, that sometimes they visit them throughout their life, that they have continued experiences, which is very fascinating to me as well.
So that seems to be a thing for me again. It seems to be every so many years.
So let's go on with the events. Let's do it.
Sure.
If you have continued experiences, I mean.
Now I'm gonna jump to the most recent one. If I'm forgetting something, remind me.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the most recent ones was again in October of 2023. Forced back into my parents' place due to unfortunate circumstances. And I'm thinking to myself, boy, it'd be so cool to see something out here. And right then, a stationary star, I mean, just like any other star in the sky, moved. And I'm going back into my parents' place. And before I get to the door, I look back just to see if maybe I'm imagining this. It's just in my head. And no, sure enough, the thing's moving. I thought, what? That's really cool. Go to bed. 2 or 3 days later, I'm back out again in the night sky, and I'm seeing more movement. And I'm like, wait, how is it that stars are moving? Stars don't move, they stay stationary. They're always there every night in the same position, or different positions according to how we move. The globe moves. And so I just keep watching it, and I noticed that it's right here, and then it moves a little bit, and then it stops. And then I started saying in my head, I see you. I know what you're doing. And it goes up again, and it comes back down, and it does a little thing, and then it starts waving as if it was a balloon in the sky.
No way.
Yes.
Awesome.
And I'm like, ha ha, that's funny. You're not fooling anybody. I see you. And then it just decided to just go ahead and move on in a straight pattern. No zigzag, nothing, no wavering, and just eventually goes from a star to a small light and then gone. And then here comes another one shooting over, and another, and another, and another.
Wow.
Yes. Amazing experience. And then there wasn't much to them. They all did the same thing. They all eventually dimmed out. And then that leads me up to one of the maybe the 5th or 6th night in October, which again I should be clear, this was in the middle of October, so it didn't start at the beginning of the month, leading up to Halloween, strangely enough, and I saw these balls of light that were stars, again moving, and this time they were growing in intensity. I could see that they were silver. I could see some of them were like a gold color. And then they would do this kind of blink pattern and then just completely stop moving and then just pretend they're a star for the rest of the night. And I thought, what in the world? That is crazy. So then here comes something else, and then another, and then another. And before I knew it, just about every single star in the sky was moving that I could see. It was crazy. There were still stationary stars in the sky, but there were these other ones that were moving. And then the next thing I know, I'm looking up at an angle here, would be due north, just slightly east. And there's this invisible, you can't see it, cone coming down in the shape like this. And these balls are going up to it, and they're just going.
No way, like a portal, like a wormhole?
Like a vacuum cleaner.
Oh, wow.
It gave me goosebumps. It gives me goosebumps now.
Wow.
And I'm like, no, this can't be happening. This is the weirdest thing ever. Now, I should say, I am speculating on this particular belief, but I feel like this was a response to what was done in Congress in July of 2023. The testimony that David Grush gave and other people like him. I really did feel like that. But then again, I've had all these experiences, and now I suddenly ask for it, and I get nearly a month's worth of it. Crazy. And then, so that same night, I'm seeing this thing, right? And then I see more balls that are growing in intensity, shrinking. Some of them are changing from red to silver, and then just disappear out of nowhere. Out to nowhere, rather. Then the next thing happens is it starts to come down, things start to settle down, and then I was thinking about going back in the condo. And as I was thinking that, I said, no, wait, turn around. And I just had this feeling to turn around and look down at the street. And so you can see with the street, in between the street lights and right over the street, that there was something there in the night sky. Could not make out the shape. It was dark like night, like the night sky, but it came to a space capsule-like shape eventually. So I'm going to use the backdrop here of the black of the curtains. But it was more of a rounded back end coming to a point, and this was more of a dip. So it was, or actually other way around. It was dip, like if you could pour something into it. Imagine if it was like a vessel or something, you could pour water down into it. It started to get this definition slowly. And I saw that caught my attention. I kept watching. And then I don't remember if lights came on at that moment and it started coming towards me, or if the lights kicked on after when it left. But so I'm watching this thing and it's coming into shape. Then I realized as I'm watching this, whoa, it's getting close to me. I don't know how it did that, but it suddenly went from going down the street, traveling in a northeast direction, more easterly than anything, to suddenly being making a beeline right for me. And I said, whoa, you're getting really close. The tree that was in between me and it was probably, an American measurement, 10 feet away from me. And so it was closing in on this tree, and I'm like, whoa, I'm not, and I said in my head, I'm not sure I'm ready for this. I'm sorry. And just like that, as if it was on a conveyor belt in its movement, it just stops and reverses. No change in movement, nothing other than going in the opposite direction.
Wow.
Once it gets back to its original position where it was over the street, it then lights up from, if this is the back end, and lights up from the nose end. And each one of the pieces of, there were rows of lights that lit up on it, and it was all red. And when it lit up, you could see like what looked like roof shingles, or I don't remember what shape I gave you. I want to say it was like some kind of a isosceles triangle type, not isosceles triangle, but anyway, the shape was more like this. I could do it with my fingers here. So it was the top was like this, and then it came down out wide, and then it came to a taper down here at the bottom.
I have a space module-like object written down.
Yeah, that most closely matches its shape. As if you were to remove the nose of the space module.
Yeah.
So these lights are going up in rows, and they're lighting up first one, and then that one dims out and it lights up the next row simultaneously. And then it does the next one, then it does the next one, then it does the next one. So it's like maybe 8 or 9, 10 different rows till it gets to the bottom. And then the whole thing lights up. It starts to move very slowly, and nothing. Disappears in the night sky. I looked for maybe another dimming star or anything like that would match where its location was. I couldn't find it.
Wow. The whole night sky basically turning into moving objects reminded me, I'm not sure if you saw it, or have read the books, The Three Body Problem.
Never heard of it.
It's a new Netflix show, but I think it's based on another show. I'm not sure if it was Chinese. I think it was Chinese, and that is, I believe, based on a book series. And in one scene, spoiler alert, I think two people on a rooftop look at the night sky, and they know that basically in the whole show, the premise is that there are extraterrestrials or some beings coming after having contacted a certain character in the show, and they're coming towards Earth. It will take, I think, 100 years or something like that. But to show everyone that they're real, that they exist, basically they turn off the night sky like a flickering strobe light, on and off. Basically, the stars are acting crazy, and that just reminded me of it, basically, like as if all the stars suddenly did something. And I think in that show, I'm not sure, it might have been mental manipulation that they made them see that, do you think it was more a type of that maybe being projected into you, or do you think it was real and other people might have seen it as well?
It was very much real.
Yeah.
There was no one else that would see that. There was no one else out at night at that time. This neighborhood is very quiet. Even during the day, it's rare to see somebody outside. That was absolutely real. No doubt about it.
That's amazing. I wish I would have seen that.
So then the last night, so I had plenty of other nights that followed after that where I just see the balls and doing this funny thing, acting like they were balloons, and then saying, okay, I'll stop because I've been spotted, and I'll just pretend I'm a star again, which was hilarious. And then one of the last nights where I saw some major event like I just described was unbelievable. I will use the nautical definition of an armada. There was an armada of these balls of silver/gold, highly reflective things, and they were all in sync, moving. It was as if the night sky, was moving over me, as if the Earth was rotating at an exponential rate, which just doesn't make sense. And the craziest thing was, after that had happened, you could clearly see that they were all gone, and we went back to the normal night sky.
Wow.
Weird.
So they were there in addition to all the usual skies that one would see? Wow.
Yes.
That must have been a sight to behold, my friend.
It was, man. And I just couldn't believe it was here, too. I mean, I've been in all kinds of different places, and I haven't always lived in this area. And I just never thought I would be here, of all places. But, yeah, and then, again, my most recent sighting was around July 3rd, July 4th of this year. I was actually lucky enough to show one of my nephews what was up there, a little kid. And we had 2 or 3 that night after the fireworks had ended. And, they still, I don't know how, but they're still up there.
And they keep showing themselves to you.
Seems like it.
Fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. Have the sightings become more frequent in the recent years, you would say? And like the time that passes from one event to the next? Has that become shorter, or?
So what I'll say is I don't think so. However, since you brought that up, I realize now that, again, I've been going through this serious event here that's life-changing, that I'm still seeking attention for, to get help. But it seems to have correlated with that. If you ever have another topic come up in relation to this other thing that's major here going on here in the United States that involves me, let me know. I'll be happy to discuss that as well. But It seems that due to this serious scenario in my life, there's a correlation. It feels because I can look up in the night sky just about any night now and see them moving. And again, they're not just anybody. If I had a skeptic with me or a non-believer or whatever you want to call them with me, spewing the same thing, they would probably tell me that I would be seeing a nighttime satellite. And I totally understand, because it does look similar to a nighttime satellite. However, nighttime satellites are not that abundant, and they don't seem to crisscross patterns and even intersect at the same time and then dim out from out of nowhere. You can watch them shrink the size of their light down to nothing and even burn out. That was the other thing I meant to add, was that red conicular thing that was in the sky did dim out to a star-like. It was as if, are you familiar with the old tube TVs?
You mean the hardware, the TVs, the old ones? Yeah.
Pre-19, well, around still, at least here in the United States, around in the early 1990s, we still had tube TVs where you push the button, the knob on the TV, and then next thing you know, the screen collapses, and then boom, goes into a ball, and then
I had that for my N64, I think, and for my SNES back in the day. The
there you
consoles.
Go. Yeah, so exactly, yeah, that was what I witnessed. It wasn't the collapse of the wide, it was just the ball itself collapsing in itself, and it's the weird thing is you can see like this little tiny light, this little tiny thing, almost like a candlelight, but it's so powerful that anybody could see it within viewing distance. I would assume you could be hundreds of miles away and still see that tiny little light somehow. And my other feeling based on my experiences is that this is not light like we see in our natural life. This is something other than light that is being picked up by us, that we can see, that they will allow us to see.
Any other sightings? That was the most recent one. Did we cover all of them? Because then we can go maybe to some.
I feel like I missed something.
You think? Which one?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm honestly not sure.
So we had the first encounter in 1990, when you were 7 years old. Then we had the massive craft that your mother saw in 1995, definitely. We had the Disney World event in 1997. The second Sun event in 2007. We had the 2015 experience with the saucer-shaped light and near the archaeological site, I believe it was. And the 2023 event, the lights over multiple nights, and then obviously the most recent ones we just talked about as well.
Okay, so two more, just to remember. Around 2010, 2011, I was out in the second home away from home for the family. So it was a log cabin out here in the Midwest, and not too far. It was a very rural community, a fall farmland. And it's near a very popular river. Up where, at the time when we had the property, it was situated up on a hill, very high hill, where you can see just about anything around it. And one night we were looking from the porch down over the river from the log cabin, and there were these red balls of light dancing around over the river. And I told my mother and my grandmother, "Hey, do you see that?" And they said, "Yeah, we see that." And the next thing you know, they're gone. Go to bed, wake up the next day. We're going down to the river to go fishing. And believe it or not, I couldn't at the time, so I understand if nobody believes me. But there was a black helicopter, not marked at all, doing a search pattern in that immediate area. Another encounter I had out in that country land. Probably around the year 2003, 2004. At night, I was by myself watching TV. My grandfather and my cousin were upstairs sleeping. And I noticed red, yellow, green, blue, silver, and maybe another color, all flashing simultaneously, just going back and forth, lit up the whole log cabin. And it seemed to be coming from the backyard. I panicked. I freaked out. I went up these really steep, old, 100-year-old steps that were clearly not designed to be going up very fast, risking my skin, telling my grandfather, there is something out in the backyard that is terrifying. I don't know if it's the police or a helicopter or what, but could you please go see it? Because I wanted him to get his gun and find out whether this is an intruder. Right then, gone. It was just gone.
Of course, yeah.
And I have a theory that because of what my grandfather said, he had some encounters while he was there by himself in that log cabin where things had been moving on their own, just particular items. That sounded like poltergeist activity to me. And my theory is that there's not any ghosts doing that. It's these things that have these extraordinary abilities, these power generators or whatever it is that's within these craft that are just by coincidence happening to be manipulating the objects that are within the viewing area.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely possible. I would think if they have the capability to hover in the sky and to do all these other things we talked about, this should not be a hard feat to achieve.
No, I would think not.
No. Wow. So how many things did your grandfather witness himself? Also, any lights?
No, he's a good old country boy, at least when he was alive anyway, and he never believed any of that stuff, and had you brought it up to him, he would have denied it. So,
but what did he say about the poltergeist events if he didn't believe in that?
He thought a ghost was playing tricks on him.
But he did believe in ghosts then?
He seemed to, but
okay.
I told him I didn't think that was the case. I said, I don't think
I mean, who knows at this point, right?
Why would they move a Pepsi can on you just to play jokes on you?
Yeah, exactly.
And then why would they hide what was he claiming? One of his shoes.
I mean, if you're familiar with the show Skinwalker Ranch and all the events that happened there seems to be a trickster element to these things. Like they just do things without a real purpose. Sometimes it seems.
I'm vaguely familiar. I do believe in 1.6 gigahertz. I think there's something to that.
This frequency that always appeared when they saw UAP, I believe, right?
Yeah, it seems like it.
Was it? Is that the case that they also use it in the military, this frequency? Is that true? I'm not sure.
Not sure either.
Because I did research that once because I was fascinated by it. My brother has, how do you say that in English? Like a ham radio, I think, something like that, with the antenna on the roof.
Yep.
And I was like, can we project that out, please, that signal? I want to see if something comes. But he was too scared. He didn't want to do it. And, I believe I also read that one of these frequencies they frequently encounter is also used by the military, but I'm not sure, to be honest. It is definitely strange that at this 1.6 gigahertz frequency, whenever they encounter that, really weird things happen. They almost always see UAP or something. I'm not sure. That's interesting for sure. I highly recommend this. I think it's a documentary. Actually, they call it a documentary on history. I mean, it is. The first season is just a bit, I mean, how they present it. I think it might have not been the best way necessarily for non-believers to believe, because they have this cheesy setup with this over-dramatic voice actor and stuff like that. And there's a character called Dragon and stuff like that. So I was like, at first I was like, But the more you watch, the more interesting it gets for sure. And they definitely do use the scientific method for everything. They try to, at least at the best of their capabilities, I would say. Highly recommend it if you haven't watched it yet. Very fascinating, and I think there's a ton of books on Skinwalker Ranch as well, from the Robert Bigelow era when he owned that, the hotel mogul, I think, the billionaire. No.
Could I give you my summary of everything and what my take is on this? And
go for it. Yes, please.
So, if it were not for that very first encounter when I was 7, I would have absolutely never had an interest in this at all. I would have been that guy that would have said, you're full of it. You need to, pinch yourself and get back into reality and see things the way they really are. Stop believing in a hocus pocus. From that moment, I was hooked on UFO stuff. Family could testify or whatever you want to say it. They could speak to, witnessing me do that. There were some really great UFO shows on American networks here in USA. One of them was Sightings. That was a great program. They tend to show real home footage of places. Like one of the ones that really sticks in my head was the military base where they filmed the actual air base, filmed this thing that was up above the base, and it looked like tires, vehicle tires, and they were all kind of like pushed together, and it would change the shape as it was up there in the sky, stationary. Weirdest thing ever. Great program. Unsolved Mysteries, love that, network. I'd always be watching that. And when I was in high school, senior year composition class, I believe her name was Miss Compton. We were in class, and the military came in to recruit, us 18-year-old boys. And they were standing along the wall over here to my left. And they were asking everybody, this and that. And I said, hey, does anybody have any questions? And I raised my hand and I said, yeah, I got a question. And as if it would just come from knowing, subconscious knowing, I said, I gave them these details about how to get into the base and how they had all this special technology. And I was very specific and detailed. And the one guy says, he stands up and he perks up and he's like, oh, how do you know that? And I said, well, I watch television, I read books, I don't really know, I just know. And he says, well, you can't be talking about that. And the other guy's like, well, we should ask him a couple more questions. And so I gave him more details, like how would you get past the gate with these certain specific biometric security measures. And I was very detailed. And they says, well, you know too much. And they dropped their whole thing. They didn't even go ahead and ask the rest of the class who wants to sign up to be on the draft or whatever it was. They just left. And the whole class was flabbergasted. And they said, Bryan, what did you do? I said, I don't know. I just was asking them a question. I figured they would be able to answer. And everybody looked at me like I was the weirdest kid in the class. And my teacher was like, we need to take a break. It was bizarre.
Oh, wow. So like a download. That's what they call it, I think, right?
Maybe,
when you get information, maybe?
Maybe something like that. I don't know. Yeah. But then again, I watched a lot of programs on television and I read a lot of books. Mm. So maybe it was something I just happened to pick up along the way. But it shaped my belief, and it's very much a religious experience, as I've heard other people describe it.
For sure, yeah.
It's religious in the idea that I don't think I'm seeing God. I don't think I'm seeing angels. But it's that kind of belief system. I no longer believe that other life exists. I no longer believe that there are other kind of intelligent beings like that are similar to us that are here on this earth. I know that it's a thing based on my experiences and based on the factual and good information that comes from people like David Grush, from Stanton Friedman, from you name it. Let's not go out on the wild path and start touching on people like Stephen Greer or Greer, and then you got Mr. Lear, because I think it's very important to have as someone who's had these experiences to really view what these people are saying, regardless of what their credentials are, and just to really look through it with a fine-tooth comb and make sure that they are what they represent. It's very important. because I feel like the message that's being sent here by them, whoever they are, I'll be clear, I've never witnessed any beings or anything like that. It's just the craft and these balls and whatnot. I feel like their message is that it's time to come back into the fold and enlighten human beings, because there's something that's went off the rails. Somewhere along the way, we've went off the rails. We've, I don't know how things are in Europe, but here in the United States, they're getting wild and crazy. And I really feel like as of the past 20 years, that is what maybe they're responding to, this deviation from where humanity is supposed to be going, right? Humanity should be building themselves up, should be promoting each other, as opposed to looking to end one another to promote their own personal means or an agenda. And I think that because of these experiences I've had, the feelings of love and these funny encounters, they're just simply trying to say, hey, we have a better way. We can show you. But I don't know. I'm not going to be the person. I'm an average Joe. I'm an average person. I don't put myself on a pedestal and say, look at me. I just want to share my experience. I'm true. I'm factual. I'm to the point.
That's what it definitely seems like, right? That they want to show us something because of all the attention they're gaining in the public sphere as well. And I completely agree with you that humanity is on the wrong path at the moment, but it also feels like we're on the precipice of a change, a big change, either for good or for bad. We don't know yet. We'll see, I suppose. Definitely a change.
I think a big help would be getting this. Yeah, absolutely. It's a feeling. I think a big change and a big help would be if the United States would step up and, start disclosing what they know.
Yes.
Because I just find it as to be total BS that they don't know anything and they just keep shoving this under the rug. And you got other, people out here that do similar to what you're doing now, and they know damn well, excuse my language, but they have really good connections and to senators and congressmen who are looking into this. And a lot of the things and a lot of the guests they have on their show correlate to some of the things that I've experienced in my personal life, and I know them to be true. I just recently heard that down in South America, there's if you go to a certain particular news channel that you can find mostly on YouTube, this person just had an interview with someone who's a scientist down in South America, and they were saying that they're attempting to make contact now. My opinion, based on my factual experience, is that if it falls into the wrong hands, if someone who makes the connection first and it's the wrong person, the wrong group of people, it means that the rest of humanity is going into a very, very dark age that they may never get out of. Because that technology, there's no way you can win.
That's what they say, right? That's why for 70 years they kept this secret because they are scared that the other nations, their enemies, are getting their hands on this first or re-engineering whatever they found first. Completely understandable, but I think I agree with Christopher Mellon and the other ones at the Disclosing Forefront that it's time to disclose at least the fact that we're not alone, that we are not the alpha species in the universe. That is important for everyone in the world to know. We don't need the blueprint of the craft. Like not the everyday Joe doesn't need to know that, but
Nope.
We at least need to know that our universe is, of course, big and filled and teeming with life. Most likely, very likely. It's a shame, a real shame that isn't done. At least not yet.
They're afraid. They're afraid of losing power. They don't want to lose power.
Power, money, mostly
control.
Power. Control. I agree. At least there are people who are fighting the good fight at the moment. It seems like, at least. I hope it's not all a theater for everyone to behold and then nothing happens.
Right.
That is my biggest fear. I think that this is all just done so that people shut up and that people think, other people working on it. I don't need to do anything, right? And then nothing happens. But it doesn't feel that way necessarily. That's just me overthinking sometimes.
But isn't that the other problem, though, that if you're just going to, allow this to continue to go down the same path of denial, and then here you have other people like myself who knows, maybe one day I will have a full-on contact, and and then that nobody is going to be the one to break the beans and break this open. And I'm going to guess that, according to someone like David Grush's testimony to Congress, that's how some people get eliminated, removed from the face of this earth.
I think so. Also, I mean, that's what I had to think of. Maybe because they know how much an encounter, maybe not with extraterrestrials or interdimensionals or whatever they may be, scared you when you were young. And also because you told them I'm not ready for the next step yet. Maybe that's why you haven't had an encounter of that kind yet. Maybe at some point in your life when you feel ready, maybe you will. Who knows, right? Or maybe they will have disclosed themselves by then. That is also an option, right? That at some point they are just in the sky, they are just there, they land or whatever, and people can't hide it anymore from the world.
It feels strangely enough good to know that there's someone else looking out for you.
Yeah, definitely.
That has power to do these strange things.
For sure. Hopefully, I mean, to be honest, I don't like seeing, for example, Tom DeLonge is often pushing the viewpoint that they are dangerous, they are bad. I think that is possible because that there is not just one species, most likely. There's probably a lot of different ones. And it's just like you would not say, I don't know, all Americans are bad. There are some bad ones, yes. There are some bad Germans. There's some bad, Australians. But it's not all bad. You can't say all extraterrestrials are bad and they're dangerous and they're coming here to wipe us out or something like that. It really annoys me that intelligent people like that don't try to at least think further than that and talk about, yes, these might be dangerous and bad. Maybe, we don't really know, not for sure, but there's probably benevolent ones as well. I mean, there's been signs all over the place for benevolent ones as well. And people, there's the argument that they could have wiped us out already if they wanted to because of the technology and power they have, and they haven't. And also all the sightings that were documented in the Bible that were most likely, in my opinion at least, extraterrestrial visitation or interdimensional, who knows. But they would have had the chance, is all I'm saying, probably, most likely. And they haven't. So I'm hopeful, at least. Maybe I'm stupid, but I'm hopeful.
I think it's good to be hopeful because I think that's, again, the message that they're trying to send is that, you have to have... There's a better way of living life. It goes back to, like we were talking before we joined on, before we started this video, Rendlesham Forest. I think that was the message that we're trying to send is that we're going to be merging these two worlds together, and you have to be open-minded, and contact's got to be made before we can have this event occur. And the only way you're going to get there is through peace and love. And I think that's one of the reasons why they're so interested in nukes. Not only because they may very well, some of them may be powered by nuclear technology, but more so of removing that from the face of this earth because humanity doesn't know how to properly use that technology. So everything's always being done for the sake of wiping out some other group of humanity. I think the message is peace and love. I don't see this being negative or total dominance. Now, however, on the flip side of that coin, if humanity gets this technology and they're able to push out whoever these people are, then yes, I could see that being a dark time. And also one of the reasons why they're very hesitant to come to people like us because they know how our history is, humanity's history, coming from the Stone Age and everything, being so violent. And I think that's one of the reasons why they try to assure people to relax, be calm. But we're so brainwashed by Hollywood's big giant spiders and little green men and terrifying flying saucers that can ray gun you to death. That is a big hurdle to conquer.
But, I wonder if a disclosure ever happens where we live side by side with extraterrestrials or whatnot, if these movies are somehow how we see the old school racist movies now. Oh, you can't watch that anymore. You can't do this anymore. Maybe they say, oh, you can't watch these old alien movies anymore. That's racist.
I would say so.
Yeah, probably, most likely.
Yep.
Fascinating.
That would be a book burning, wouldn't it?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, pretty much.
Remove it from humanity's history.
Indeed. Have you heard of these theories? Because we were talking peace and love. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's multiple people supporting or at least believing in the public sphere on X, that is, in these theories. As a second language, this TH is still getting me at times. How they think this is a very out there theory, I'm pretty sure. But it has also been mentioned that there's a Galactic Federation, basically, by, I think, Israel's former defense minister and Hellier, his name was, I think, as well. Was it
Paul
the Canadian defense minister?
Yes, Paul Hellier.
Paul Hellier, yes. And I think a few others, that there is a Galactic Federation and that they are promoting this shift, this ascension of consciousness, basically, in humanity. That's what I read, at least, about, which I find fascinating, because I also believe before we get our hands on this technology for everyone to have, basically, there is a spiritual ascension necessary. We need to come to terms with that before we have mighty, powerful tools like that. There needs to be peace on Earth and inside of us. I think that is most important before humanity can be allowed to have that technology for everyone.
I agree. However, I would say, based on world events, that humanity is at an oil and water place right now.
Yeah.
Oil being the bad actors, people who don't want things to go smoothly for the rest of humanity and would prefer to have power and a total dominance over people's lives. And the water being the people that are good, who don't even take the time to get themselves educated on this stuff. And, I really feel like there's something coming along. But it's very important for everyone to see this as good and bad, and not two-party system, blue, red, green, Labor Party, etc.
For sure.
And just see it for being human beings.
I mean, with the effort in Congress, that makes me kind of hopeful, because both aisles are working together, right, on that topic at least, which barely ever happens in the US, but they are working together on this at least.
True.
Some of the people, not a certain Mr. Rounds, for example. I think it was it Rounds?
Mike
was
Rounds.
It Rounds? Or
yes.
Turner, Mike Turner.
Rounds and Turner.
Turner, sorry.
Both of them.
I was scared to butcher these names, but. Yeah, they're definitely working against that. It seems, allegedly.
Yes.
But, yeah.
Absolutely.
So, how have these experiences influenced your personal beliefs about extraterrestrial life? Are you more inclined to believe that they are extraterrestrial, or are you more inclined to believe in interdimensional, extra-dimensional, or maybe even time travelers? That's what some people believe, that it's just humans from the far future in these craft that can distort gravity and time, and that's why they can come back. I don't know. What do you think? What it is?
So I've had a lot of time to think about that, right? And going through the years, um, I think it's so I can only tell you based on what I felt. And then again, even with the trench coat guys, uh, it felt like family. Still felt like family. I feel like very familiar. There's something to that, 100%. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole because, again, my credibility is on the line here. And but yeah, it's something very familiar. I do believe that some of them are from another dimension. I don't think that or if you may want to call it reality. Um, I will tell you that I know that there's something. So we're living in this fabric. Think of it as a flat two-dimensional plane. Our reality is this flat place. And then on the other side of that is the other flat place. And that, let's say, maybe something like there's ways of getting there and everybody does it. And I think there's a connection there. And I think there is, as some very highly credentialed, very good big names in humanity right now are right that this is a spirit world coming into the natural world. And I think that's also one of the reasons why some of these people in government who are holding these secrets don't want some of it to get out because of the possibilities of what you could encounter. Think of animals, our animals here. What would be an animal that comes from the spirit world that we're terrified of? I think that some of these things that are depicted in Hollywood are not so far off from the truth. And because of my experiences, and I see some correlation between the work that those producers, those directors, etc., for movies go and do the work, right? They get the research done before. So they'll go to DARPA or whoever, Defense Advanced Research Projects, agency or association, whatever it is, and they'll get the information and they'll incorporate that into their story so they can get that information out and get it disseminated in a way that people can take it in comfortably. And then eventually it become reality. I think that's all connected. I really do. And again, goes back to feeling like family. I don't know how else to describe it. Make of it what you will. I don't expect anybody to believe me either. I'll say that, everybody has their own opinions and beliefs, and I respect those.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, what else can you do, right? You can't. I mean, it's that people try to force their opinion, especially on X, on other people, and say, "Oh, there's just bullshit what you're saying." But who really knows? I mean, we all just have what we experience ourselves and what we feel, like you said, right? It felt like family to you. That might have all different kinds of reasons or connotations why that is. Fascinating. I could also speculate about that probably for hours, but that is, insane. I don't know. Some people believe they are family because they made us, right? That they have genetically created us. That's a theory that comes up over and over and over again. I'm not sure if David Grush talked about that. Did he? Do you know?
Not sure.
But he definitely talked about them potentially being interdimensional, right?
Yes, absolutely. In non-human entities,
Yeah. And it might even be all of the things, not just interdimensional, but it might be extraterrestrial, interdimensional, all the other theories that are out there. The universe is so massive that it could all be true.
I agree. I think that's the other thing they don't want us to know is that, it's not ever been just us here. It's always been someone looking over us and observing and influencing.
I believe so too. I mean, they're also scared, I think, to admit that they don't have sovereignty over the skies, over the planet. They can't protect us. If they decided the others to do something that we don't like, they cannot do anything, most likely at least. Also, I mean, if you listen to other theories, I'm not sure how familiar you are with that or how willing you are to believe that the things Stephen Greer is talking about. I find it very entertaining to listen to him. I have to admit, it's very because it feels like some kind of I don't know, novel that you read the way he talks about things, and it's very entertaining to watch. But also, since there's so much ridicule of him on X and stuff like that, because so little people seem to believe him, I find it difficult to believe it. I might believe that there's some truth to what he's saying, but maybe if he's been misled, maybe not. I'm not sure. Fascinating person, nevertheless, I think, because he's been doing this for so long as well. But since he believes that some of it might be humans as well that have taken over craft, I'm not sure. Yeah, so now I lost my way here because I'm not sure where I was going with this. But definitely need to be careful who to believe, nevertheless, on these things. And it's so confusing at times as well, right? Because there's so many different opinions on things. But again, maybe it's all true, or maybe at least partially a little bit of everything is true, you know?
Definitely. There's always a grain of truth to something.
Yes, that's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you think about the recent testimonies and whistleblowers coming forward about UAP? Do you think that will be the way to disclosure? Will that lead to anything? Or in the end, will disclosure come from somewhere else? What do you think?
You have to give me a moment.
That's okay.
You said a key word there. That's exactly what I'm going through right now. Totally unrelated to this topic. But I think it's really important to understand that anybody who is going before Congress or any other parliament or any other government, take them very seriously because their life is on the line. Everything is on the line. They either have already lost everything, or they're at the simple whisper of the wrong word, and they will lose everything. They may even include their life. So take them very seriously. Of course, be skeptical. It's healthy to be skeptical. But yeah, I think they're on the right path, given my experiences. And sometimes I'm even able to finish what they're going to say before they say it. So there's definitely some good information being told by people like David Grush, by Ryan Graves, by, Jim Penningston and Colonel Holt and other, well-documented officials. And you have to remember that governments are very powerful, and they work in, to use another good old saying that most people use for religion, God works in mysterious ways. Well, so does the government. And believe me, it's very quick, and you'll never see it coming until it's already over with. And then you're left with nothing. Take them seriously, but always be skeptical because there are bad actors out there. And I think it's to keep a healthy mind. That's
good advice. Good advice for sure. Over all this time in your life, all these experiences that you had, how has the belief and your experience in UAP, UFOs, whatever you want to call them, affected your personal relationships and your social life? Has there been people that turned away because of your opinions or the things you said you saw, or were they all okay with it?
I've been fortunate to have people that don't shy away from this, and I have been keeping it to myself mostly, especially that first encounter. It's very, very tough to go over, and that's really about it. I mean, I've been very lucky to have people that when they do hear about this kind of stuff, or they do want to touch on paranormal, they're surprised that I have some depth and understanding and take it seriously. So yeah, I'm lucky.
That is definitely lucky, because even though I haven't had any experiences myself, not really at least, whenever I want to talk to my friends about this, most of them find it awkward to talk about, or they seem very hesitant. They don't really want to, it seems. They don't believe it. One of my friends said, no matter what you're going to tell me, I'm not going to believe it. I was like, really? No matter what? It's not nice. I mean, not that's the wrong terminology. It's not great to not at least have an open mind when presented with new evidence, you know?
I agree.
It's a bit
And
sad.
I think that comes out of fear.
Probably.
And, you know, and just simply not wanting to take the time to consider it, which, you know, karma works in funny ways.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, also people, like you said, are afraid to have their worldview change, right? The what do you
Can't
call it?
burst their
Paradigm?
bubble.
The burst their bubble. Thank you.
Yeah.
Because that would mean that everything we've been taught and that we thought to be true is wrong and false and very different.
Yep.
So I get it, but
Definitely a Copernicus moment.
for sure, definitely. And actually, I am looking forward to that moment when
Same
humanity
here.
hopefully changes for the better, I have to
Yep.
say.
I think that if the meeting of two worlds were to ever come, and it seems like there's a big push from our United States government to make this a reality soon, very, very soon. That's exactly what you'd be seeing, is that the option to be combative and violent is not going to be tolerated. And whether you want it or not, now you're going to end up having to be, one way or another, be forced into being accepting of other people. I think there'll be some kind of authority going to come from them, not us. And they'll be the ones to say, hey, look, change now or we'll change you.
I mean, might very well be. I just had to think of one of the more out there theories, how some people seem to believe that there will be I think they call it the shift, I think. Have you heard of that?
I'm not.
How they believe there will be a spiritual ascension where our vibration raises to the point, for most people at least, that have reached this level of vibration, that we will enter into like a fifth dimension, so another reality, like you said, basically with the whole planet. So Earth will basically have a duplicate Earth, and everyone who has a high enough frequency will shift over there. And the people that don't, mostly probably all the bad actors, people call them cabal, whatever they want to call them, will be left behind, and they yet have to then, or they then still have the chance to also do better and raise their frequencies and basically follow, or stay behind forever. I'm not sure, but I was wondering if you had heard of that theory.
Never
It's
heard
one
of
of the more out there theories, obviously, and no proof for that possible, I don't think, but very fascinating as well. I'm
That's
not sure.
beautiful.
Would be
I really
beautiful.
hope that is a thing, a reality. That'd be great to see.
I agree. Have you ever tried, by the way, to document any of the sightings, maybe photos or videos, and what were the results of that?
Yeah, you know, the funny thing is when you try to do that, it seems to always end immediately and you never get a chance to do that video. So, yeah, I've attempted many times, but never could get it done because the moment you go to reach for a camera or something like that, it's gone.
What maybe if you next time try to ask them for permission, like, can I maybe film you?
Yeah, you know, I could do that.
That would be, I mean, maybe, because they seem to be responsive, right? Especially to you. Could be.
I think
maybe.
I'm trying to think of the long-term picture, you know, as opposed to the short-term picture. If I just
makes sense.
Stay where I'm at and not request anything, and then I establish a connection or whatever, or, you know, just a friendly little thing, that would then lead to not having to do that. It would lead to other people getting the same treatment, and I would hope for other people to have these experiences as more opposed to documenting them. Unfortunately, that's where I'm at.
That's okay. I heard also that being grateful seems to be a big thing as well, vibrationally or energy-wise, that gratitude, if you send that out, seems to attract more abundance or something like that. Maybe that's exactly right, what you're doing. And by just being thankful for the experiences that you are granted, that you have, maybe more will come to you, and more interesting ones as well in the future, like, or more not interesting. They're all interesting, but more more close encounters, I would say, if you ever wish to have that. That is, of course. But yeah, absolutely fascinating either way, whatever the experience is in the end. All right, I have a couple more questions, if that's okay with you.
Yeah,
Do we
totally.
have time? Okay.
Yeah, go for it.
All right, what did I write down here? Do you believe there are specific reasons you've had multiple sightings throughout your life? Any specific reason you think why it was you?
Yeah, you hit on a pretty that's an open wound. Yeah, I do believe there was. I'll skirt around the truth a little bit. There were certain events in my life that had to take place and led up to the most recent thing that I disclosed to you through email. And certain things were supposed to happen. And I only know that based on that first encounter. I knew when to expect certain things. It was subconscious, and I would start thinking about it as it would just kind of eventually work its way into my mind. I'm not going to say it was a message from God. I'm not going to say it was a powerful message from a being, and I'm in touch with them, because it's not true. I don't have any evidence of that. However, I can say that I've had some foresight, personal foresight. And now that I'm at a point where I'm at in this terrible scenario, I don't know what's coming next, because I don't think I've ever had that foresight. I don't know if that answers your question, but yeah, I'm kind of skirting around the truth there.
That's okay. I've heard that people who remote view sometimes also see glimpses of the future, I believe, right? Actually, I watched an interview from the Sean Ryan show. If you're familiar with that show, I highly recommend it. Sean Ryan definitely has some interesting guests. The last one was a person, I don't remember their name yet because I haven't watched the entire interview yet. Also a remote viewer from the Monroe Institute, I believe, at least. Joe McMoneagle, I think, is the most famous with Ingo Swann remote viewer, right? And yeah, just highly fascinating. In this interview, Sean Ryan was invited to do this aptitude test for remote viewing, and I did it alongside with them, right? And they basically the interviewed person said, in the next 15 minutes or less, I'm going to show you a picture randomized by this computer, and you please describe to me what that picture is. And then he had to write things down on a piece of paper, and I personally didn't see exactly what was on the picture, just a tree, basically. I recognized that there were trees. There were lots of trees in that picture. For some reason, a tree came to me because he had like a first attempt and the second attempt. And one thing that came out of that was that Sean Ryan is apparently very good at this, because he had seen like a pyramid on top of a house, and the house shape in approximately, at least, and that there are lots of other structures. I didn't see any of that. But I did see a black and white picture of a man with slicked back black hair in like a suit with a cravat, with a necktie, with a certain pattern on it. Seemed to be a bit old-timey to me. I'm not sure what the era was. And I was a bit disappointed that obviously that wasn't in the picture. But then in the break between the two remote viewing attempts, he started talking about if Sean Ryan had seen the movie Oppenheimer. And I was like, wait a second, Oppenheimer. And then I remembered the movie picture of that. And that's what I saw, basically. I saw this promo of the dude Oppenheimer. And I was like, wow, okay, this is a bit strange. Maybe I didn't see what was in the picture, but I did see something that was mentioned, at least by name. And so I've heard, I mean, this is probably nothing, I'm not sure, but I've heard so many stories about remote viewing being successful, and even glimpses in the future and glimpses in the past. I think a million years back on Mars or something like that. What they saw there, fascinating. Definitely can't necessarily be proven. I think they proved some of it, because they could still see some structures they described nowadays that they saw back then. Anyway, So I'm not surprised if you say you had foresights or glimpses of stuff. I think that might very well be a universal ability that humans have inert inside of them, basically, that's maybe not super active because most people don't know about this or don't know that they even have this kind of capability. And I think in the interview they said the ability isn't the rare thing. The training is the rare thing, to know how to tickle that out, basically, out of people, how to activate it more, how to train it. So.
Yeah, I would say that I would have loved to have been able to see something, but unfortunately for me, it was just knowing that this event was going to be coming up, never knowing when, just knowing that it was eventually going to happen in my lifetime. And then after it happens, I'd say, oh yeah, that's already been done, which is very strange, but it is what it is, it's just so strange that there seems to be a correlation, seems to be a connection between the things that have gone on, and I don't know. We'll see what the future holds for me, but fingers crossed. I'm hopeful.
I wish you all the best with that, and I think maybe they are still there. You still see them to this day because they want to make sure that you're okay. Maybe they want to comfort you, show you, hey, you have a tough time at the moment, but we're still here.
I
I'm
agree.
not sure. Maybe. Yeah. How do you cope with skepticism or disbelief when sharing your experiences with others? Or have you ever had someone, we covered this kind of already, and you said that people were accepting and kind, but also when you hear maybe skeptics, I'm not going to name any names here, I don't want to promote any of them, the ones on X especially, but okay. What do you hear or feel or think when you hear what they say about these things?
It's just very important to realize that whatever this event is, or whatever these events are, that it's not anything menacing. It's there's some cooperation here, and it's very difficult for anybody to bring themselves to accept this. Don't really have a good answer for you outside of that.
That's okay. Personally, I do sometimes get frustrated. I also know that a bit of skepticism is healthy, but some people just flat out lie about stuff and try to obfuscate the truth, and that makes me a bit angry, to be honest. That's unnecessary, I think. But there's also the theory that some of them might be paid to do this on purpose, right? To muddy the waters.
That is not outside of reality. That is definitely a thing going on.
I believe so.
Testify to that in my own personal experience that I'm going through right now. It's unrelated. So yeah, it's very much real. It's not a Hollywood thing. Anybody who's weak at the knees for some money will do whatever they have to, so long as it's kept quiet.
It is despicable, if I might say.
To say the least.
Yes, to say the least. So, what do you hope to achieve by sharing your story with others in this format? Now, what do you hope? What the impact might be for people?
Get the message out there to other people. It's okay. Be mindful of the fact that this is not a scary thing. It is in the moment, because this is something. It's very foreign to all of us. I think it's very logical for anybody to not believe me. I think it's very logical for anybody to take what I've said and twist it to their narrative, simply for not wanting to believe it, or not wanting the truth to get out. Because we all have our reasons, and I think it's a very good idea to be mindful and respectful of other people's opinions and beliefs, because who knows? Maybe someone else will come along and say, hey, this and that happened, and it turns out that they're right. And it may not be the truth that I'm living. Maybe it's a slight break from that truth. And, it's 50-50 truth and this other truth. yeah, be very mindful and accepting of other people. Peace and love is going to bring us together. It's not going to be tribalism and putting each other into certain political groups and not being willing to incorporate other people due to the fact that they like something that you don't. And it very much relates to this topic, because if we're ever going to be able to, as I told another big YouTuber in this category, he was saying these negative things, and I said, you got to stop, because if you want this to be reality, emerging in these two worlds, and the truth to come out, we have to have unity. We have to bring each other together. And the only way we're going to do that is by respecting one another. Plain and simple.
Absolutely agree.
And let's say that, not only that, but what if one of these 3 or 4 different groups, as the government has told us, who's visiting us or influencing us, will not tolerate anything other than being peaceful and having love. And their one condition of making this a reality is to have that. Well, then it's going to go back to what you're saying about that split or whatever, where, you know, some people are going to make it into this other world and others are going to be left behind into a potential hell, you know, that they've created for themselves.
It definitely reminds me of the biblical rapture stories in the Bible, for sure. I mean, that's why I'm always thinking there's probably just a misinterpretation of what the reality of things might be, and they wrote it down in terms that they understood back then.
Truth is stranger than fiction. And I think reality is, we have reality a little bit off. There's some things wrong. Not only that, but, you know, going back to what you had said earlier about these other planets. Did you know that humanity sleep cycle is half an hour off or something like that, and it correlates to Mars?
I heard of that. Yeah,
it's a direct connection. And I tested ChatGPT just recently on that, and I said, "Hey, is that true?" And it said yes at first, or no, it said yes, it's true that that there's no connection. And then I pressed it again. And I said, but isn't our sleep cycle a half an hour off? And they said, yes. So it says, yes, actually it does connect with Mars, not Earth.
Yeah.
So you have that, and then you have all these other things that come together. But yeah, I'm getting a little off topic here.
No, I mean, these are all theories
Wild.
I concern myself with constantly. I have to say, I go into deep rabbit holes, and sometimes I think because I'm getting very enthusiastic about certain ideas, and when I tell people about them, they might think I'm a bit cuckoo. I think because I before this podcast, I had 2 solo podcasts, right, on the drip system, and I just go off there. I don't really. I'm not super careful to not speculate or to not say things that might seem out there, because it's just interesting. I think there's enough podcasts out there already as well that are only strict with the facts. I think a good mix is interesting. Like we did, we covered all the factual stuff first, right? And now maybe speculating a bit isn't that bad. I think sometimes people are afraid, even in the UFO, UAP community, to be seen as kooks and to be seen as crazy. But as you said, the truth and the reality is probably crazy, and we cannot fathom or imagine it. So why not speculate? It doesn't need to be all right, but that gets ideas going, right? Brainstorming in that topic can't be a bad thing necessarily. As long as you know that it's probably not all true, what you think.
And that's the only way we're going to get there, is by openly discussing this, whether people accept us or not. Because eventually we're going to have more people come out of the woodwork, and they're going to start describing their experiences. And it's just going to continue to explode, as it has been as of recent years, according to very major government officials,
yes,
across the world.
What advice would you give others who might have had similar experiences and are afraid to come forward?
It's their own prerogative. It's up to them whether they want to disclose that. We have to respect that. But I would say also too that could you ask a question again?
What advice would you give to others who might have had similar experiences to you, but are afraid to come forward with their story, at least not necessarily in front of Congress or something like that, but just out in the open and to tell their stories?
Yeah. So again, it's important to, respect your own personal boundaries and others as well. But if someone wants to, try and make this a thing, just to see something, anything at all, it's not really difficult. But the difficult part is bringing yourself to understand that all it takes is a simple thought, that you have to constantly build up this, I want to see something. It's not going to come to you immediately, but so long as you continue going down along your life with this thought of, I want to be able to see something, and have it drumming up in your head, you're eventually going to see something. And then you're going to test yourself and you say whether I saw that or not. Was it real or not? It's okay to be on both sides of the fence. There is no one right answer. And, it's a very testy thing. It's a very controversial thing. It's, again, going back to, Copernicus. It's hard to do that. And it's because of the world we shape for ourselves. We can't, we're going against the grain of what human cultures are, what the American culture is, what the European culture is, what the, you name it, is. And anytime we're being challenged to not believe, it's tough. It really is. And I don't know, but I think that's about all you can do.
Agreed.
You know what I mean? It's difficult.
For sure. It definitely is. How do you think, if disclosure of these, whatever they are, interdimensionals, extraterrestrials, if that happened, if the disclosure happened, how would that affect human society and our place in the universe? I mean, we covered a little bit of that already, but
I've always called BS on the officials, government officials, and others to the likings, the reporters, the journalists, etc., saying that, this isn't a real thing. So I think it's just important to bear in mind that this is all going to become reality one day, and it may be really soon.
Maybe some final thoughts. What is the most important message you want to convey to people who might be skeptical of your experiences? People who are listening now and saying, I'm not sure. What do you want to tell those people?
I accept that. I accept your reality and your beliefs and respect the way you see the world. However, I would ask you have an open mind and know that I've been factual, honest, and only telling you what I know. And what I have said that I don't know, I've already told you. I've speculated. So take me as I am, or dismiss me. It's okay, because this is a very testy thing. It's again, we're all going against the world narrative of this doesn't exist, and that is the biggest problem. I would say, if you don't believe me, it's fine, but go look into the people who are telling you to not believe me and find out whether they're telling the truth or not. Have they committed any crimes? Have they done anything to sway the person's narrative in the wrong direction? And then come back to what I've said.
That's a very good answer. I love that. How do you find the strength amidst all the things that are going on in your life? I don't know, because you seem very strong, a very strong person still, even though I know what you told me in private, what's going on in your life at the moment must be very draining as well. And then having all these experiences in your life, how do you stay that strong during it all? How do you find the strength, or where do you find it?
I go back and forth. And whether people believe it or not, Ten Commandments are something they really go by. And I know it's kind of breaking off topic here. And it's more of a religious thing than it is any of this paranormal stuff. But that's how I get through this spiritually. And, I have people who are helping me and my family, just get by every day. Because I can't do anything to provide for myself at all as a mid-aged adult. And again, it's going to skirt around the truth here a little bit, but there have been certain things that have been absolutely detrimental to my life that no other human being would ever want to have happen to them. The worst of the worst. And those turn out to be spiritual experiences, because had I not went through that, I would not be this different person. I'm not the person I was before. And there's been a lot of spiritual influence. Other than that, I really don't know how I get through this. Other than I had an event last year. I can't go into detail on, but I was given an opportunity that I could not refuse. And my goal is to fight and get the truth out there about my personal experience that I'm not disclosed here. And I know I'll come through, because this other party who's, I'm the rebellion, they're the empire, and they don't have a leg to stand on, which is why they're doing this terrible stuff to me. And they're going to be sorry that they chose to do this to a small person who presents no threat to them other than to tell the truth and to disclose that they side with the darkness. I side with the light. I don't believe that I believe good and evil exists. However, it's reserved for spiritual beings. It does not apply to human beings. And it has to do with the experience I've had that I have disclosed here. I think human beings are incapable of being truly evil or truly good, because again, we're all created by something. I have theories on that too, but and they're based on good information from other sources. But yeah, that's how I kind of get through. It's unbelievable. Anything that happens in Hollywood, again, is based on some truth.
I would agree. Definitely also agree with you on the fact that all these hardships are probably meant to send you on, or me as well. I've had some events in my life that were pretty traumatic, but without them, I wouldn't be on this journey, on the spiritual journey as well. Because I was in such a bad mental condition at some point around 2015, had panic attacks, depression, and stuff like that, that I started meditating and started to looking for something greater than myself. And also looking into this topic again, I believe it was after 2017. I was always interested, always been a big sci-fi buff, watched Star Trek, Stargate, Star Wars, all this stuff.
Stargate's awesome.
Stargate's amazing.
Television series was excellent.
Yes, I think so too. So all of that, what happened has led me on this path. And also I grew because of it as well. I wouldn't be the kind of person, I'm not saying I'm like the strongest, best person. I'm just saying that I would be a very different person without these experiences, for sure. Maybe I wouldn't be as open-minded or as curious about other things as well. Definitely.
Yeah, I had a thought, but it escaped me. Something you were saying really hit home, but that just escaped me. I apologize.
The experiences are meant to send you on a certain path, on a spiritual path, maybe that?
So, Schrodinger's cat.
Yes.
That's real. I can tell you that is real. I've had an experience that I cannot deny. It happened last year, and I think the key to understanding this other stuff that's going on, this other paranormal that we're discussing now, um, they're coming to us because they see the thing that's beneath our skin, and they know that there are empty vessels out there, and they are the problem. They're not the solution to humanity. They are the destruction of humanity. And you got to have, if you don't have one, you got to find one to build up. And I think those people will never get that. And I do believe there's a war going on here. It has to do with the life you're living. I think it's very important. And by the life you're living, I mean every single human being on planet Earth. We're all impacting this big movement. And we don't know what it is, but we're here to do a job. And the only way we're going to get there is, again, not to beat a dead horse, but by doing good and bringing each other together. Once we bring each other together, everybody, there's going to be a few stragglers, you know, God bless them, they're on their own, but they're not going to make it.
It fits in with that whole shift narrative, right, that I talked about before.
Yeah, I think everything's connected. I really do. I truly believe everything's connected. And I think that's another one of the realities that our governments of the world don't want us to know.
I personally feel most drawn to that theory that, I mean, I'm not sure why, to be honest, and I don't have any proof that that theory is even remotely correct, but whenever I look at all the different theories out there, that one is just attractive to me because I feel it's just nice that we are all souls having like a human experience, basically coming maybe from other realms, like you said, from other densities, dimensions, whatever you want to call them, and that we come here maybe to a school. Earth might be a school for souls where we choose with a life plan, I think some say, exactly what we want to go through in life, how we can grow further. Maybe we've lived 1,000 lifetimes already, and we haven't quite figured out this one thing yet, and that's why we need another life where exactly this kind of stuff happens, so that we can grow and ascend spiritually even more, I suppose, or grow as a soul. I'm not sure. I just find that, I don't know, find that an attractive theory that all things kind of have purpose, that all things happen for a reason. Maybe it's not true, but I just find it fascinating.
So based on everything as a whole that I've experienced, I would say that there's no doubt in my mind that it's actual fact reality that the goal of humanity is it's reserved for the things that we call souls. You inhabit a body, you do your work, and you have to meet an end goal. Nobody knows what that end goal is, and nobody may ever know. But you die, you move on, you come back to the same place. If the job to be done is to promote humanity and get them to a bigger place, then you have to come live a life as a human being that we know. And then you keep going and you keep going and you keep going. And if you messed up in that one life, you're going to be weighed at some special place. And they're going to say, like going down a conveyor belt, all these eggs. And they said, no, those are bad eggs. Kick them out. And then they have to go, I guess, repent or do whatever. But these things that are up there in the sky, in the water, underground, everywhere, they know this. And I think that that's why they're here. I think ultimately that's why they're here. Not everyone, of the 3 or 4 groups that our American government has already disclosed, but I do believe that there's definitely one of them that knows this, and they're here to battle that.
I think you might be right. I've heard the theory as well that that souls might not be a universal thing for all the species, but that it might be a human specific thing, and that some species, like the gray or whoever is above them, I mean, there's different theories. I'm not sure if this one is even correct, but that they might be jealous of that and that they want to figure out the secret that gives us a soul, or what the soul is, or whatever. That can very well be true. Highly fascinating.
Yeah, it's really strange how everything comes together. But again,
I agree.
Not everybody can come to this conclusion, and I respect that. So
some might just need some time, right? They need to find out these
or
things
another
on
life.
their own. Yeah, or another life, definitely possible. Even though there are some theories out there that something major will happen before 2030, or at least in our lifetimes. I'm not sure if that is true. I would be happy
what
to.
about 2030?
I'm not sure. I think 2027, the exact date was, right? That they had in mind that something was about to happen up to that point. I think.
I don't know.
What's his name again? Former CIA, or maybe still employed by the CIA guy had given an interview. Semivan? Was it Jim Semivan? Is it?
I'm not sure. I've not heard that name. I think you're talking about the guy that wears tends to wear the green beret cap thing, or the
I'm not sure.
Man, what's his name? Shoot, kind of a chunky guy, kind of bulky.
I don't mean Lou Elizondo. If
That's
you mean
it.
Lou
Yeah, you know.
no,
okay.
No. I mean someone else, and they had mentioned this date that something major is supposed to happen. He didn't disclose what it was exactly, but that the suspicion is that either extraterrestrials, interdimensionals, will disclose themselves at that date in that year, that there is maybe a contract. If you don't disclose this until then, we will show ourselves, or some other major event. And
was the other thing about the American government.
Yeah.
You know, after last July, last July, when they had that, and then they were discussing this, and they were saying, well, we have a deadline. And I'm saying, well, hold on a second. Why don't we hear this deadline? And they never went into details and left us hanging. And I'm like, well, what's the world going to come to an end, or what? What's going on here?
Yes.
That's just a strange thing to say that and leave us hanging.
Yep.
And now I'm hearing that next year is a big deal for us as human beings. It has nothing to do with paranormal, where, you know, we're going to be working against this WEF, World Economic Forum agenda, where everybody's going to be systematically put into this controlled environment where you're not going to be able to help yourself to do anything. And it seems that way, at least. Yeah, it seems that way, and that seems very much real already. Look at the events that are taking place in the United States.
Yes.
And then, you know, I'm not sure about Parliament, but yeah, it really does seem like there's been a buildup, especially since last July, and I know a lot of encounters happening. And then again, you know, go back to Ryan Graves talking about the West Coast and the ocean and the things that have been witnessed every day when they go out there. And that's extremely important. And
for sure,
it's heartbreaking to hear that our government will not be transparent about this, because these whistleblowers are saying, hey, the cat's out of the bag. You gotta, you know, never going to be able to put that cat back in the bag, but you got to get the people where the cat's running through up to speed, because this is going to be a Pandora's box event, and it's going to cause some destruction to your system, your way of living life.
I love those guys that they had the courage to do that, to come forward in front of Congress and testified. I think Ryan Graves and David Fravor and David Grush, absolute heroes. And I hope there's going to be a lot more people like that. I mean, from what they say, over 40 whistleblowers are in the works, right? They're about to come out, but they yet have to receive the necessary protections, and until then it's just too dangerous, because even the whistleblowers that came out now were under a constant attack by entities and governments and people, and so I completely understand, and under threat of death at some point as well. So definitely need those legislations to come out very sooner than later, I should say.
And going back to that event where I told you, I saw that saucer getting pulled. It was more of a pull.
Yeah.
Just the most bizarre thing ever. Um, Bob Lazar, his descriptions of how these craft work, and then going back to Albert Einstein and the theory of unified gravity or something along that line. True.
I'm not sure.
Mean,
but yeah,
absolutely true. That's exactly what I witnessed. It was so spooky, so weird.
Yeah, the thing about Bob Lazar is that many things that he claimed that he said that he saw back in the day were proven to be right, because exactly that way these craft seem to move, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's very
definitely.
interesting, the very least.
And just to see something just do this weird behavior that nobody's ever seen and nobody could ever replicate here on Earth. There's no way anybody could replicate something getting pulled that fast so that it turns into a streak of light. No way. and not only that, but it was going west and it was going in an incline because you could see the streak at an angle up towards space.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Weird.
Yeah, still wishing I would see something like that as well at some point. Maybe do you know what I thought at some point? I'm kind of consoling myself with that. Is that maybe because I believe so much already that they think, you don't need convincing, you don't need to see anything.
I don't think so. I don't think so. No, I think it's just a matter of having a good eye, thinking about it, and looking for the unusual. I mean, it does take somewhat of a keen eye, but not that much. Anybody can do it.
But you seem to have an aptitude, or at least they seem to favor you a little bit in that regard.
I think it goes again. I'm going to skirt around the truth once again. I think it goes back to that there's some connection between what I do in this life. It really is. And I'm just thankful that I had an opportunity last year. So,
anything else you want to tell the people? Anything we haven't discussed yet? What you would want to discuss or get out there to the people?
That's a tough subject to talk about. It really is, because you can go travel the world and bump into people and never meet anybody who will give you the time to just let alone listen to what you have to say. And then second, take you seriously. And third, accept it as reality. I think anybody who has experiences like me should never be expecting their truth to become reality or be accepted by other people. It's a personal experience that everybody has to have on their own. But outside of that, anything else, keep looking. There are such things as hotspots, very much so. Look to the places that have more spiritual connections among human history. You know what I mean? Not so much as the Bible or anything like that, but groups of people from recent past. You can figure them out. I don't think I need to help anybody out, but it's very real. That's about it. I mean, do you have any specific questions for me as to what I've already covered?
I think we covered most of it. I mean, if at some point questions come up, maybe the viewers, the listeners can ask questions as well. And maybe if you're up for it, we can do a part 2 at some point and answer those questions.
Definitely.
That would be amazing. I want to thank you, Bryan, that you did this, that you were willing to come on and even film yourself or be filmed in a video and do this interview with me. It's been an honor. It's been really cool. You're a cool guy. I definitely enjoyed talking to you, hearing all of your experiences. And I believed you already when I read your testimony, basically, that you sent me via email. And even more so now, you can really hear that you're not making this up, that you have emotion while talking about certain things as well, that things really have been at some point also traumatizing. And that makes me just more more grateful that you came forward with this, to me especially. Thank you for that.
You're welcome. And another thing too, that just popped in my head. Animals. If you have pets, if you see wild animals out in the wilderness, pay attention to what they're doing, because they will give you clues as to what's going on that you can't see. And believe it or not, sometimes they will be the ones that will help show you what that one particular spooky paranormal thing is that you want to see.
They are said to have a sixth sense, right? So
they're tied in somehow. I think they live in a different reality than we do, but we all live in the same world. So, yeah, I mean,
I agree.
Don't always have to turn to people to find out what's going on.
For sure. I mean, if you look at Skinwalker Ranch, the cows, how they behave when there is something in the skies, or right before there is something in the skies, and all different kinds of reports of poltergeist activities, how cats look at nothing and hiss at nothing, or dogs bark at nothing and stuff like that. Who knows what they're sensing or seeing? Who knows?
Yeah, they're intuitive. They're very tied into both worlds. I think they can see spirits, and they can see the world we live in too.
Agreed. Listen, Bryan, it's been an honor, a pleasure, a privilege. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I do appreciate you taking the time and taking me seriously.
Of course.
And knowing that what I wrote in the email was true to fact. And, there's always going to be a handful of people out there that say, you're making it up, and that's fine. Again, it really is fine. I'm not going to go out of my way to convince anybody of anything. Life goes on, so I appreciate you giving me the time to hear me out.
Of course. Until next time then, my friend.
Adios.
Goodbye, but people out there as well, I hope this was fun. Let us know what your thoughts are about this. If you have any questions for Bryan or for me, or comments in general, let us know. And until then, goodbye.